one more question from you, and this one's from Victoria Haring, who is also from Des Moines.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Yang. I'm a retired civil rights lawyer, so I think it's good to be following a teacher who teachers teach me everything, taught me everything. The gerrymandering process is never fair and is always contrary to our democracy. Gerrymandering is one of the many reasons people feel that their vote does not count. It is a tragedy that should be addressed. What will you do to make our voting districts fairly drawn and not subject to gerrymandering?
Thank you, Victoria. Civil rights lawyer, I mean, that's tremendous. That's incredible work. And this is such a pro-democracy group. It's very exciting. So gerrymandering is a massive problem, and someone put it best, voters should be choosing politicians, not politicians choosing voters. So I would back up what Eric Holder and Barack Obama have been working on in terms of anti-gerrymandering provisions that are based around objective criteria for these voting district lines, and not some politician coming in and being like, ooh, if I draw this line this way, then the people that like me will be here and not the people that don't like me. This is, to me, one of the clearest examples of a need to safeguard our democracy. I would, as president, have these objective criteria and say, look, we should be following them instead of letting politicians choose their voting lines. I also want to talk about what we're all here thematically to reverse, which is the Citizens United ruling. So there are a couple of ways you can reverse Citizens United. Number one is a constitutional amendment. Very, very difficult in today's day and age because you need 2/3 of states, 2/3 of Congress. Really hard. So we all know what the other path is, right? The Supreme Court overturning itself. Now that sounds like it might be very, very difficult, but that's actually the easier path here. Now, I have a couple of major reforms for the Supreme Court. Number one, we need to shift to 18-year terms instead of lifetime appointments. Really, like if you think about lifetime appointments, they make no sense at all anymore. When they wrote the Constitution, people did not live as long as they do now. And people stepped down for a variety of reasons. They didn't stay on the court until they were at death's door. Really. And so if you look at what we're doing now, literally you're looking at someone, I mean this is literally the way America works today. It's like they appoint this justice and then it's like, ooh, this person's in their 50s, like they're gonna be here a while. And then everyone's like, oh, like, oh. I mean, does it make sense that you're trying to put someone in place that's literally going to be influencing policy like 25, 30 years from now? So we should have 18-year term limits. It would reduce the political firestorm that accompanies these decisions, because if you lose a presidential election, then you know the other party gets, let's call it, 2 justices, and it's not based upon whether an octogenarian is well or unwell. I mean, right now it would be perfectly rational for us all to follow Ruth Bader Ginsburg around and just scrub doorknobs like anything she's going to touch. That would actually be a purely rational move right now. And that's not the way we should be running our country or our legal system. And number two, after you have 18-year term limits in place, which is bipartisan, Republicans should be on board with this because it doesn't hurt either side. And then number two, this is something that is controversial, but it's the only way we're going to overturn Citizens United. There is nothing in the Constitution that says the number of Supreme Court justices. It has been higher than 9, it has been lower than 9. I believe we should increase the number, with the argument being that this too would decrease the politicization of the court. Because if you have a higher number, then if a justice rotates off, then it's not as big a deal. And one byproduct of increasing the number of justices under my administration is that the composition will be such that we will have a realistic chance to overturn Citizens United during my first term. But we have to get real, because the other side has been playing very, very, very dirty on this. And if you're in a fight, you can't tie one hand behind your back and complain while they're like stabbing you with the knife. Like, you have to get out and say, okay, I get it. This is a knife fight. Here's my bazooka. And that's how we win.
Good. Okay, we're all set then.
All right, thank you all. February 5th, let's win this thing. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Ah!